Economics and politics are the foundation of human development.
While forming the world's earliest civilizations, Africans also laid the groundwork for the creation of economic systems.
By learning from our history, we gain the strength to empower the present and design the future. Presenting the premier forum for truth, culture, and change. HAPI Talks. Join us as we unlock the secrets to our success.
Peace.
Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. What's up, Hassan? How you doing?
Much. What's good with you?
I'm good. I see we got the all black memo today.
Yeah, I got the Nubia joint on.
Yeah, nice. Nice, family. Yeah, so listen, family, we have that shirt. We have it's all of our stuff because of our clearance sale is dwindling down. So if you want to get what Hassan has on, you may want to head over there to the little hoppyfilm.com and get some Hoppy gear. We have really good pricing right now.
Yeah, because we'll be restocking soon. So we got to get the old inventory out.
Yep.
So look, I got a little drummer next door. So if you hear that going on, that's what it is. I can't stop him from drumming. You know, he's a little kid. He's learning. He's feeling himself today. So, just try to figure it out. All right, people?
Background music. That's what's up.
So, let's start off with the like, subscribe, share, comment. Very important that you do that. We want to get this out there into the algorithm. Make sure you leave the comments, as much comments as possible. Help us get to 40K with the subscription. All right. We almost there. We need y'all help. All right.
Yes.
Help us out with that.
Yes. And this is going to be, we always like when our guests come on and have they're real clear about what they're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so I cannot wait to hear this financial information from our guests. And also the cool thing about it is that our guest just said that he would also write for the Hoppy newsletter, which is great because listen, family, make sure you go to get connected on happyfilm.com. Mm-hmm. All right. Because we, listen, all the good stuff is in the newsletter. We get articles from top scholars, and just things that can just help us in all aspects of our lives. We just we have a Christologist that is writing an article for us. Last month she talked about the obsidian. This month I'm not going to even tell you, but she already sent her article. She loves being a Christologist, and that's Zuwaina Salim. That's Infudishi Juhutimis's daughter, who he trained her, and then she went on and got even higher training in terms of Christology. But she is part of the Hoppy team now, which is great. We have Gordon, who writes about physical ailments, physical and mental illness, ailments, not illness, but ailments. And then we also have Talita Bryant, who's given us the legal piece. So this newsletter is packed with a lot of things, and you can also advertise. Which is really, it's the way to go if you want to get your product or your service in front of the family. So, yeah,
it's almost like giving out flyers back in the days. So you ain't got to stand on the corner giving out flyers or go to a place, a conference, and give out 300 flyers, and then 200 of them are on the floor by the end of the night.
Yes,
advertise with us. It goes out to thousands of people every month.
Absolutely. And the other piece, that's funny when you're talking about handing out the pieces. So one day I was over Dr. Rosalind Jeffries' house, Dr. J's house, right? Yeah. And Dr. J pulled out this little pamphlet. And the thing that was so dope about this was that the pamphlet was a newsletter. And the people that were in the pamphlet was Renoka Rashidi had an article, Asa Hilliard, all of them was just writing articles, and they would put it together. Literally, they stapled it together. It was, it was like folded, and they stapled it, and they was handing them out. So even back then, so this piece about getting our scholarship out there for the masses is not, we're not inventing nothing new. We just use a different form of technology to do it. And at the end of the day, we all get the benefit from it.
Yep.
So, like it costs nothing, and it costs you nothing to even open it and read it. So pass it on.
You got to market and promote in different ways, different tiers. It can't just be one way,
Absolutely.
Speaking of marketing, check out our Hoppy film. All right.
Yes.
Film is a dope film, super dope film. We get into the history of economics, bring you up to modern times. We go way back a couple of thousand years. All right. So you can check that out on Amazon Prime, Quayle TV, or Tubi.
Yeah. And family, I sent everybody, should have gotten an email from us about the Hoppy film. So we had just cut like a new trailer. Okay, we have lots of trailers, but we cut a new trailer for the film, and we asked that everybody go and just open the email. If you didn't, you're just going to click the button. It takes you to Facebook. You're going to look at the trailer. You're going to like it. You're going to write a comment, and you're going to share it with 3 other people. And that's part of, when we talk about like getting the information out. Once you start commenting, like what Sam was talking about, commenting, just leave a comment. When you're commenting, then it tells Instagram, Facebook, they're all basically the same, that, hey, somebody cares about what's going on over here. And they just send it out to more people. And then our message gets out to more people. And this is it's a circular, a circular impact, because the thing about it is like we get information, we give it to somebody else, they get information, they give it back to us, we get more information. Like, this is how we need to be really rolling right now in 2026. And so it's important, that you guys like support the things that you say you care about and value and want to keep seeing. The film Hoppy is a beautiful film. It's 2 hours and 11 minutes. You're not going to find anything like that really on TV right now. 30 scholars, like the documentary is great. So a lot of time, energy, hard work went into that. A lot. And money. And money.
Which brings me to, spreading some Hoppy love. Share some Hoppy.
Yes.
Hoppy love is you donating to our Cash App. Right?
Yes.
Donate to our Cash App. We can make other documentaries, other films. We can pay for our in-studio sessions, because we're trying to do more in-studio talks. Brings a different energy, a different vibe, gives a different look. You know what I'm saying? So we want to give y'all a different look while we at it. All right. So you got anything else to say, or are we gonna bring in?
One more thing. Well, we got one more thing, which is right here. I was like, really? Like, how you? You might have to just turn in your little happy papers. I don't know. But family, right here, we are going. This is the best thing about this is that we had a plan, and then we were thinking the plan was good. And we were happy with the plan, and then a better plan came along. So with all the drama that's going on with the man, I don't even say his name, but whatever that man's name is, that's the current president, and just all the drama just going on with this, conflict, we decided to move our Egypt piece to Senegal. So now we're doing Ghana, Togo, and Senegal. All right. But because we are, we changed the way the flights are, now we got to come back to the States through Morocco. So we were like, well, why are we going to be there? We might as well go and hang out in Marrakesh for a couple of days. Yep. So that's also an option for you. But the coolest thing about this is that the Senegal, Morocco piece, which you can just come on those two, countries, we're going to have Robin Walker with us, the Black History Man. So he's going to be walking us through, showing us all the Moors architectural beautiful places. Like there's if you look at, we just did a show with Robin Walker, and we showed him the flyer, and he talked about one of the places, and I was like, you know what, I can't wait for him to be on this trip with us. Yeah. So now it's 3 trips in one. You could do Ghana, Senegal, Ghana, and Togo, or you can do Senegal, Ghana, Togo with Morocco, or you could just do Senegal and Morocco. So 3 options, 3 different price points. But this is really a trip that if you want to roll, this is going to be nice. And so far, we have about 3 or 4 people who've traveled with us before. No, 6 people. No, actually 8 people. 8 people who've traveled with us before. They're going to be on this trip with us. So they're coming back. So I'm telling you, you definitely want to hang out with Hoppy for this.
And the other thing is, if you're not familiar with Robin Walker, check out the last talk we did. The last talk we did, it was the title was Africa Before the Arabs. All right, and he laid down some real important information that I think we all should know. So check that out, because he speaks a little bit of the Moors, but on this Senegal Morocco trip, he's going to be really going in depth about the Moors.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice. Mm-hmm. And family, when you head up to akettours.com, that's where you can get all the information at. Also, what you get with the trip. So yeah, we're going to these places, but a lot of people are like, well, what do you get? Because they look at the price, they're like, what is that? No, it includes everything. So it's your international flights, the flights when we're inside of Africa. So the domestic flights, the international flight, your hotel stay, your meals, all the transportation, entrance fees to every place that we're going to go. We're going to be on an air-conditioned bus. Yes, air-conditioned bus. Okay. It includes also your like our guides. It includes them. So yeah, it includes pretty much everything. The only thing that's on you is your visas that you need for Ghana and Togo, and your tips and any shopping. And let me tell you right now, this is going to be, I'm already looking at the leather goods in Morocco, and their prices are dirt cheap. So, listen, family, even if you just want to come, there ain't no shame in your game. You just want to come shop in 4 countries. We ain't mad at you. But the good thing about our trips is that you get a lot of everything. So they're definitely historically based. But I think another thing that we don't ever talk about is like the people that you meet on the trip.
That's right. That's right.
Because a lot of people, like I know this last trip we did last year, I didn't even know that there's like a whole men's group that developed from the group. Like they're all still talking to each other. A lot of us are doing business with each other. So family, this is definitely going to be a nice pilgrimage. Definitely.
The tagline is 3 signature experiences, 1 sacred journey.
Yes. I love that.
Powerful.
Yep. So, and look, one more little shout out to Black Magic Mike. I tell you, Black Magic Mike don't be playing around in these comments. And that's what we need. We need some more Black Magic Mikes. Okay. Get up in these comments. He's sharing our information. He's amped in there. Miss Williams is amped in there. Like, that's what's up. All right. So I think we're good.
All right. So my brother right here that we're about to bring on deals with history, financial history, brings you up into modern times to let you know why we're in the situation, why we might be in the situation now is due to history. And what's going on now will affect you in the future. All right. So he's going to talk about a few things and he's going to present. So let me bring my boy on, M'Bwebe Ishangi.
Oh, bless up. Greetings, everybody. Bless up.
What's good, brother?
All's good. All's well.
How are you?
Hello.
Yes. Give thanks for having me.
Listen, give thanks to you, because as soon as you said that you write for our Happy newsletter, I was so happy.
Word.
I was like, because after looking at all the things that you're doing, like, you are so qualified. You are more than qualified to be, sharing financial business with us. So that's what's up.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
And what I would like you to do first is get into your journey. But first, Felicia, I'm not even sure if you know how we met. So
that's how me.
Yeah, I met M'Bwebe through a friend of mine named John Medicine, right?
Oh, the DJ that came with us to
Yes,
Egypt.
but no,
Yes.
not the DJ. He's the best DJ. You got to say that. Not the DJ.
The best DJ. Listen, he played the whistle. I was like, there it is.
He's a phenomenal person, stand-up dude. That's my brother right there. But so when John Med found out that me and my family was going to Kemet back in 2021, 2021, we were in the park in Fort Greene Park. I think it was Juneteenth or something like that, Juneteenth festival. And he introduced me to M'Bwebe because he said that he went before, and he's that Tony Browder is his mentor. So now I was going with Tony Browder on the study tour. So, we met. And the funny thing is, I asked him if I can't remember if I asked him if he had any advice for me, to go into Kemet. But his advice was what nobody has ever said to me, but it was great advice, but it was so simple. He said, do you remember what you told me?
I think I do, but I'm going to let you go ahead and let you say it.
You said, watch your head when you're going down into the tombs.
Right.
Fam.
Yes.
That's so important. He didn't go into the spiritual aspect. He didn't say, I had an out-of-body experience in Giza. He didn't say none of that. He was like, watch your head, because I bumped my head, bumped it hard, apparently enough for him to tell me, watch my head. And the first spot I went to was, I think that's TT's tomb, Sakara.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down backwards, and people was trying to go down frontward, and they was bumping their heads.
Yeah. It's always somebody to get. It's always one.
Yep.
Some of them tunes you gotta get down on a push-up like level and back into it, and then you automatically stand up. But
yeah,
don't want to do that.
Yeah. Because they think they got it, but
you don't.
You ain't got it.
Yeah. So I thank you for that.
I had this helmet. This helmet saved me from breaking my neck a couple times.
So now I pass that same information on.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? Pass that same information on. But look, so I want you to get into how you got on this journey. You can go as far back as you want to, but just tell us how you got into this.
Word. Well, let me just say this first too, and number one, give thanks both of you for giving me an opportunity to reach out to an extended family of knowledge seekers and cultural enthusiasts. You mentioned the word mentor with Browder, and I just want to clarify, whenever that comes, the ancestors tell me to clarify that the actual word Amos Wilson came up with is Jegna.
Yes.
The word mentor, actually, we need to look up that history, and it really, if you look at the history of Greece, they were a bunch of pedophiles, and mentor was one of the main ones. And so when we talk about taking someone under our wing in the name of mentor, we're actually conjuring up that spirit. So I'm going to actually cut that energy that was put out there and bring in Jegna from Amos Wilson. And for those that know in the future, just do the knowledge on who mentor is, and maybe you'll think about saying something different.
Gotcha.
Right? But so in regards to my journey, man, my journey started abruptly 2017, March 23rd, 2017. I was abruptly fired from my job working at the National Basketball Association for 12 years. They just came and said, you got to go, for no reason other than the fact that I found out was because I write about our story. I didn't do a bad job. I was always getting high acclaim, but and wasn't getting raises though. But I was working my butt off. But when they found that I was cultural, they gave me the X, right? So at that point, I had to think about, well, how am I going to now take care of my family? Because now this was my main source of income. And when doing so, I was happy enough to have money in my 401k to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to pull some of that out, even though I'm going to get taxed 5 times. That's what happens when you live in New York City. Is that, but I'm gonna live off of this for a couple months just to get my mind right about what I want to do next. I didn't really want to go back to a corporate plantation. I was just kicked off, so why do I want to go back? So that came to me meeting with my broker at Fidelity, young little white cat, went to the same university, University of Pittsburgh. And so he started telling me things, and I was like, wow. He started telling me about arbitrage. He started talking about how recessions are planned, and I'm like, oh, you got my ear. And I'm like, he don't understand. I take this information and I bring it to our people because we don't ever get information like this.
Yep.
So when it came time to filling out the forms to pull out money out of my 401k, I had to list my occupation. And I said, well, bro, I just told you I got fired, so I don't have a job. And I thought that would stop me from getting the money that I was trying to get. He said, no, you know what? Don't put that down there. Don't put you unemployed. Put that you live off your savings and investments. And when he said that, I mean, this explosion in my mind happened where I realized, wait a minute, this is how rich white people, particularly, white boys, live. They live off their savings and investments.
Yeah.
And we've never been taught that. We've been taught we got to work for money.
Yeah.
So that began my journey of trying to figure out, like, what is money? Why don't I have a really good relationship with it? Why haven't I been properly introduced? And it led me to writing this book, Apotopis and Intergenerational Wealth Planning for Black folks or Black people. And that to me has put me on this journey of wanting to convey this message to our people, because we're the ones not invited to the table. We're the ones that they don't want us to know about how money can be used as a tool to get you out of your situation. And that we don't have to we're not born to work. Money is in the way of living life. And when we understand that, when you can own your money, you own your time. When you own your time, you can live your true purpose for being here. Instead, we're caught up into working 40, 50, 60 hours plus, just trying to keep the lights on. Yep. And then our life is over. So that was pretty much, the genesis of my exposure to wanting to become financially educated. And then it moved me on to want to become a financial therapist.
Got it. Okay. So by you getting let go, some positive came out of it.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
But you had to put in the work, though.
1,000%. The unlearning is the hardest thing one can go through, because you're in your own way. It's things that you're thinking, that you've been taught, and you're like, okay, well, there's the sheeple mentality of we're doing what everybody else is doing, the sheep, following the sheep. And so you're afraid to be that black sheep and go and do your own thing because you'll be ostracized. It may be unproven. So you're unaware if it's going to actually work. But the bottom line is, when something speaks to you, the way it's spoken to me, and I feel like the ancestors are part of that. It made me want to go beyond just doing it for me. It's made me want to tell it to as many of our people as possible. Got it.
And when you started that journey, did you have a lot of doubt with you? Any fear?
I had a lot of anger, more than anything else. I had a lot of anger because I've been a cultural curator. I've been a journalist for 33 years. So I was already writing. When you talked about the flyers, I remember that, I had a magazine that started out in 1993 called the Ghetto Times magazine. So I was always putting out information for our people. Yeah. And I always talked about economics, but didn't know about finances. So I was already 2 toes in, realizing, okay, this is a sham. And then I realized that the older you get, the harder it is to find work. Yeah. And tenure, especially when tenure doesn't even matter anymore. Yeah. People can be at their jobs for 20, 30 years and they'll just come and slim the fat and cut and let you go. Yeah. And not care about what you're going to do for the remaining 20, 30 years of your life. Yeah. So we're not putting our monies in spaces that are going to give us a real return and not a 401k, or as you can see how volatile the stock market is right now. Yes. You can't put it in these places and say that this is going to be my nest egg. Yeah. Because that nest egg has never been put in a space, and it's in fine print. It is not a real, it's a gamble. Yeah. It's a gamble, and you're gambling with your future and your bloodline's future at the same time, unaware until it's time.
Got you. Before you get into your visuals, what's the difference between economics and finances?
Wow. Huge. I think economics, in a nutshell, economics can have more of a worldly view. And that's where folks can feel like, it's too much for me to digest. I mean, in particular with what's happening with Iran and the war, and, we don't really know what's going on. All we know is that the oil prices, the gas is high, right? Yep. And we trust our quote unquote politicians or trictions, I call them, to take care of business. And we know that they're not, especially when you look at the history of this country. The only thing has always gone up is inflation and the price of goods, not the earned income. None of those things have gone up. Those have gone down. Yeah. But then when you get into finance, I think finances is more personal. Finance is something that low-hanging fruit that you can actually control if you know about it. It's also the hardest thing, as I mentioned, to kind of, I guess, when you've been indoctrinated with a mindset, it's the hardest thing to unlearn, or one of the most challenging, I'll say.
Yeah.
So, it's a matter of having the right type of tools, the right type of jegnas around that will show you a different way. And this way is completely different, but it's not so different from the 1%. We're talking about those gazillionaires that have bloodline riches that doesn't get affected by any recessions.
Yeah.
This is the plans that they talk about. This is the things that they've been planning for generations, and they continue to yield profits from. So I'd rather be in that company than be in.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So you got some visuals for us. You can do your thing.
Absolutely.
I'll mute myself. I may jump in here or there if I need you to clarify something for me.
Copy. All right. Can you bring I'm trying to bring up the
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So listen, I'm a visual artist, so I'm sensitive with my ish, right? To quote Erica.
Yeah.
But I put visuals together to complement what I'm saying, because I know that we're visual people, and if anything, if something I say doesn't stick, maybe the visual will. And so my important part of this evening is I have this PowerPoint to take with you, take screenshots, do whatever you need to do to take notes and have these things still sit in your spirit and move forward, because this is going to be something that you might not have ever heard of, or if you have, maybe had not have heard to as in depth. But this is definitely a way to break yourself out of this psychosis, this rat race psychosis we're part of. So why are we here? Money governs everything that we do, but we've not been properly introduced to it. Because of that, it results in intergenerational monetary trauma. What I mean by that is that, so much is happening. We're seeing now gas prices are again high, higher than this is since the last recession. And of course, it's because of Donald Trump and what he's doing. But, it's a governmental thing. It's not just him. But we're seeing, as I mentioned, the cost of living is always going up. It's never going down. It will not be going down. And so we need to understand that part. We need to understand that this monetary and banking system is designed to bleed you dry. And if we don't understand that and create other vehicles to at least lessen the bleeding, this next 15 years is going to be really, really scary. So your time is valuable. I really do appreciate you tuning in this evening over the next 90 minutes. I'm in gratitude of you giving me your attention. Again, take notes, screenshots, whatever you need to do. And my mission is that you will walk away with a level of awareness and value that will empower you to want to do something different, if not just for yourself, for your bloodline. The personal benefits you'll learn tonight is that you'll learn about the empowering insight on the creation of money and the culprits behind it. Yes, I'm going to name some names. It's important so that you can do the diligence and the history and back it up and verify for yourself. Detailed research that will expand your mind. This is because, some of the things that you hear, this is not a TikTok video. This is not a reel. This is going to be information that you're going to get in depth so that you can cite the sources. This is not something, a little hot take that you can put on YouTube and then say, I know something. This is in-depth research that I've been doing for over 15 years in regards to finances. And then you walk away inspired to learn more about finances. That is my sincere hope, is that you don't just take this as a feel-good session, but you actually do something to implement these things in your life so that you can change the trajectory of your family. All right. Who am I? Well, I wear a lot of hats. I actually consider myself a scribe of many frequencies. I've been writing for over 33 years about stories of culture, history, conspiracies, health, finances, spirituality, metaphysics, etc. I'm also a financial therapist. I take finances very important because that is what pretty much we spend a lot of our time trying to figure out, right? And because of that, we don't get to actually do what we were born here to do. What was my mission? Why was I really born to come here and try to exercise that? I'm a historian, an educator, a cultural curator, and a professional student. I'm always learning. Never going to stop learning till my last breath. And I'm also an artist. I'm a visual artist, graphic designer, journalist, and author. These are a few of my things that I do. I have the Cryptowoke Financial Sustainability Movement, which is where I teach financial therapy. Again, the Ghetto Times, which was started in 1993. We're in our now 33rd year. WTF doesn't stand for What the Beep. It stands for Ways to Freedom. That is my podcast show. And also, I am, again, a writer. That is my logo for M'Bwebe Ishangi. Some of my works, I've written 8 books so far. I got 3 in the pipe coming out this year more. I teach financial literacy courses, education. I also have a course for STEAM. I'm a STEAM educator. So I have a course called From Slave Ships to Steamships. And for me, education is like really the most important thing. And I'm not talking about like to get degrees. I'm talking about education, awareness of yourself, because this world knows about us more than we know about ourselves. And that's my goal, is to teach us and unlearn what they've taught us about ourselves, and learn who the greatness that we really are. Right. And if you do find anything that I present this evening and you want to, reward me with a little gift, you can via Cash App. You can see there at Bitmarley or PayPal, paypal.me/DG Times. So tonight, what I want to talk about is really the truth behind the dollar and the way money was built for 2 Americas. This to me is so important because we're living in a world, we're in the information age. There's a lot of information being out there, so much that we're like, stop, it's too much, right? It's coming from too many different angles, and I don't know what to believe anymore. So we just some people just cancel out, right? And I understand that. I'm too in that same kind of space. But I will tell you that the information that I will present tonight is with you in mind, solely, exclusively about Black folk, because there's not enough of us out there. And I can't expect someone that is not of my persuasion to try to free me, as John Henry Clark would say. So it's important that we start teaching ourselves from ourselves. And that is the reason for tonight you're going to be hearing about this from an African perspective. So the opening thought I want to ask you, and you can, it's rhetorical, you can answer it to yourself. If you want to put it in the chat, you can. I would love that engagement. I'm going to pull up my Wu-Tang, mentality. So if Cream, and y'all remember this, the song Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me. If Cream rules everything around me, shouldn't we have a better understanding about it? And I changed the word cash because it's not cash anymore. How many of us are really carrying cash? We're carrying debit cards and Bitcoin, right? So currency is really what's ruling everything around me, but it rules everything around me, but it's the same thing that we don't understand it. We're just using it as a means to an end. We work for it, we get rid of it. We work for it, we get rid of it, right? So that to me is the core reason why we're in a situation, why we don't know what's happening. Well, let's look at the root of disparity. Let's state these facts. United States population, there's 60% white folk in America, and there's 13% of us. Of collegiate graduates, of whites in general, 50% of whites go to college. 4 out of 10 or 40% will graduate college. 28% of us go to college, and only 30% or 3 out of 10 of us will graduate. Business owners, 82% of businesses in America are owned by white folk. 2 to 5%, and 5 is really pushing it, it's rounding it up really, is owned by people of African descent in the United States. The unemployment rate, 3.4% amongst white Caucasians in America. We're double that at 7%. The typical wealth disparity, white households are pulling in at least $280,000 to $285,000 annually. The median household income for African Americans or people of African descent in the United States is $45,000. That's 6.7 times less the wealth of white folks. So I realize that when we think about things, and if it's happening to so many people, then it has to be systemic. It has to be a design. And when you understand it's a design, then you just got to figure out, well, who made the design? And then let's try to reverse engineer it and figure out what we can do to get it to work for us. The unfortunate thing is that poverty has been etymologically assigned to Black folk. Henry Ford said, if people understood how the economic system works, there'd be a revolution in a minute. And after you hear what you're going to hear tonight, you might be wanting to take up arms because we've actually been just lied to. What they don't want us to know is that the government practices the art of arbitrage. And by definition, arbitrage means the taking of advantage of a price difference between 2 or more markets. Now, markets could also be people. Okay, so example, while banks offer us less than 2% in savings, they make 5% figure dividends and interest loans funded by our deposits. And I'll talk about that more in depth in a minute. They also don't want us to know that the biggest form of arbitrage is not knowing history, not the history they teach us in school, but the real history they want to hide from us. This is the history they don't want us to know. The history of money is not taught in our schools, nor colleges and universities, for a reason. And these are things that you pay for. You pay for awareness, you pay for knowledge, but they keep these things from you for a particular reason, right? Actually, this is all summed up in realizing that we are living in a dream of a madman. John D. Rockefeller. He said it best. He said that I want to create a nation of workers, not thinkers, infamously pointing out he wanted people to know he didn't want you. He didn't care about your welfare. He needed you to be a spoke in his will. And from that, we have followed suit a century later. He still benefit. He and his family, his bloodline, still and his constituents still benefit from that mentality. I speak about that in depth in my book to latest, not latest book, the book before that, called From Railroads to Robots. You can see right there. And I go in depth about him. Let me just bring up this point that there are 3.5 million high school graduates every year. 5 million college graduates every year. So that's roughly 8.5 million people that are looking for work in this country. But did you know that in last year in 2025, only 584,000 jobs were created? So you got 8.5 million people vying for jobs that is less than what? That's only 584,000 available. And that's not to mention people that are already in the workforce that have been laid off or need a second job or third job that are also vying for some of those jobs. So what I'm saying is that this is designed for you not to win. It's been that way and it's only gotten worse and it continues to get worse as time goes on. So if we don't figure out a way to lessen the blow or to plug this bleeding up, we're going to be in a situation where we can see now there's no middle class. It's being decimated before our very eyes. It's going to be strictly the have and have-nots. And the haves have no care about the have-nots unless you can't consume anymore. And we'll talk about that down the road. They need us as consumers, right? They need us to spend money. But I'm a firm believer in what Asa Hilliard said, historian. He said, if you want to study history, you got to do it in chronological order. And I wouldn't be doing the creation of the dollar any justice if I didn't talk about how the dollar really became what it is, right? So it's not an American thing. It actually evolved in Britain. And really what's happening is when I go through this timeline, I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not going to go through every step, but paraphrasing. And again, this is why the slides are important. Take screenshots. I don't mind. And do your diligence. From 1756 to 63, white folks was at war with everybody, even themselves. They couldn't even stand themselves. They were fighting, in the phone booth, fighting anybody that would come in there. They didn't care what you look like, especially if you look like them, they didn't care. There was no allegiance. And so this included the French Indian War, the Anglo-Spanish War, et cetera, that happened, where they were all about trying to control by using taxes and, levying that on the colonialists, right, on the colonists. In 1765, they came out with the Stamp Act. And this basically was where anybody that had left Britain and went to another country, but needed their aid, they would have to use their paper and their stamps for any government seals. So imagine that you're in a totally different environment, thousands of years and probably oceans away. But if you want to do anything legal in regards to as a country is concerned, you have to get their okay. And they're going to say, you have to use my paper and my stamp to seal it, to verify it, to make it legitimate. And it's going to cost you, right? So this actually was repealed in 1866 with the no taxation without representation. That's what that meant. But in 1767 to 68, we saw that there were several acts of taxation and unfair practices to the U.S. colonies. Now, understand this. The so-called forefather colonialists that came over to America, they were criminals. And pretty much Britain was like, look, we're going to kick y'all out of this country because we're tired of y'all. We're going to send y'all somewhere else that really isn't established. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, okay, sada, right? So their whole thing was, well, when you get over there, if you want to establish anything, you're going to have to establish it through us, right? So imagine that, being kicked out of, a country they send you somewhere else, and then they say, well, if you happen to establish yourself, you need to pay us for having you over there, right? So that's what happened with the Revolutionary War that came. They were rebelling. They were tired of the fact that they had to pay for things, and they weren't even over there. They weren't over there fighting the lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my! They were over in Britain already living. We over here trying to figure out how to even, capture water, or what foods and what berries are poisonous and what isn't. This is what the first colonialists were doing. Well, actually, no, they weren't, because there were people here already, and they showed them, right? The natives, the Africans that were here, and some say, well, Africans, melanated people that were in this country well before they were, right? So 1776, we saw that there were 27 grievances filed against England for involuntary taxes, tax harassment, no trial by jury, unfair practices against natural rights. And this is where we got to America wanting to have this Declaration of Independence, where we see that it was infamously said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Most people don't know that was conceived by Benjamin Franklin, but it was penned by Thomas Jefferson. All right. So now we got these criminals that are saying, hey, we're tired of you guys abusing us, and we're going to fight for it. So we had that fight, and the Declaration of Independence happened. America won its independence, quote unquote. But then a few years later, they needed help again. They needed to create a bank. But because of the wars and how much wars cost and the decimation of it, maintaining military, food, lodging, etc., they needed funds. So who did they go to get funding from? The very people they were fighting. They went to Britain and said, hey, can you give me a loan to take care of ourselves now that the war is over? And Britain, said, okay, cool, we'll do that. But we're going to give you a bank. And this bank is going to be 80% owned by us, 20% owned by you. That was the agreement. So the first bank in America wasn't American at all. It was owned by the British, 80% owned. Okay. Just so we can understand these points of where this is really tied to. So how did America get started? As said, wars cost, and as the currency started to get created, we started coming to the greenbacks. The greenbacks, after the Civil War, they needed funds to be able to pay for things, and so we had what was the creation of the greenbacks. And the greenbacks actually were signed by one Salmon P. Chase, who Chase National Bank was, Chase Manhattan Bank was eventually named after. And we find that was thanks to John D. Rockefeller. But we find that the notes were something that was, again, tied to Britain. But this is where we first started seeing paper currency. Why? Because people couldn't walk around carrying junk silver and bullion in their pockets because they get jacked and it's too heavy to carry. So they figured, why don't we just give you these notes? And these notes are supposed to be promissory notes that say, okay, we'll hold your stash and we'll give you this paper as a representation of the amount of money that you have. So that's how paper money came on the scene. From that, we saw that we started to get into the legalese of it. And one thing that we find in the 14th Amendment, when you read it, section 1, it says all persons born of naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor dens any person with its jurisdiction and the equal protection of the laws. Now, the reason why I put that out there is because we now have to understand what they started playing with the words. They say English is the language of confusion. Well, we're about to see it. Black Law's Dictionary, when you look up the word person, or rather yet human in Black Law's Dictionary, when you say human, we're thinking human being, me, you, and I, you know what I mean? But according to Black Law's Dictionary, human means monster. And it also means someone that cannot own anything. Okay. And when we look at the definitions of a living being versus an artificial being, we're seeing that persons has a dual meaning. So when you say you're a person, you're going to be one or the other. Either you're a living being or an artificial being. Now, you would naturally say, I'm a living being. I'm right here, flesh. I can touch myself. You can hear me, right? but not by the government. They don't recognize you as a living being. They see you as an artificial being. Right. And so what that means is that a living being is considered as capable of having rights and of being charged with duties, while a thing or an artificial being is the object over which rights may be exercised. So how did we become artificial beings? Social security numbers, birth certificates, not having trusts. These are things that, again, sheeple do. I'm also guilty of it because I didn't know any better. I thought it's normal to get a social security number for your child. Why? Because if they don't have one and they can't get a job, whoa, think about that. You're indoctrinating your child so that they can work. Isn't that what Rockefeller said? He wants a nation of workers, not thinkers. So you're not going to think entrepreneurial. You're not even thinking entrepreneurial when you're getting a social security number or getting a birth certificate. This is registering you as a corporation with the United States government. And that name has value. If you want to know more about that, I would suggest looking into trust. I'm not going to speak about it tonight. It's very loaded, maybe another conversation, but it's definitely something we should look into because you are actually a living being and not a natural being. And there are legal ways you can do it even today. Right. So when you look at that definition, also, a human being, highlighting here, is a person of the male sex. Y'all see that, ladies? A male of the human species above the age of puberty. Where's the women? The birth givers of our entire existence. Just like in Greece, women are obsolete. They're not seen as a person. They're seen as a vehicle to procreate the race. Women have no place, according to them, legalese, government. Women have no place or say. Women are basically there to produce babies. So we understand this. When you understand legalese, and that is a modern word that is used to describe the legal and technical language used to write laws, wills, and other legal documents, we can see how we've been duped into thinking that we're actually free in this country. We're all chattel slavery. We're all cattle. Right? And women are treated worse. No matter how much education you have, you're still treated the worst. Right? This is where we need to start learning how to unlearn and reverse that. So now we're getting to the making of the Second America. The Second America is now when we started seeing the incorporation, as I mentioned about trusts. One of the other things about is incorporating, making sure that they could have business support from the courts. When you have a trust, it's a private matter. So therefore, they can't look at your records if they want to. You want to know why we don't see Trump's records, his taxes, because he has a trust. And actually, I'm not mad about that because I have a trust too, and you don't need to see mine either. It's none of your business, it's a private matter. But we don't know these type of things. We're not taught these type of things purposely. So after you see all these 3- and 4-letter corporations happening in 1871 and moving forward, the USDA, FEMA, NIST, NASA, TSA, EPA, SEC, FTC, CDC, all these, FDA, all these things, and then you start seeing USA was incorporated. It is a business. Okay. When you understand that, you understand that it therefore is a system. And once it's incorporated, the indoctrination is next. And again, plugging from railroads to robots, I speak about that in depth about the monetary system, but also the educational system, how that was duped and co-opted by Rockefeller to make us think that we're learning something and we really ain't learning ish. And, do we use calculus? No. Labor and health. When we understand that these things have been put in place to keep us in this mindset of trying to be a worker and not be a thinker and live the reason why you are given breath to be in this space right now, they are doing their damnness to keep us from doing that. Because when we do focus on that, we are the great mighty race we once were of antiquity. So it is their job to make sure that we don't know who we are. All right. And they're doing it effectively for over a century, really since 1776, really 6,000 years, to be honest. So 1907, we see where things started going haywire purposely. All right. So 1907, the panic of 1907, we saw that copper there was an issue with copper stock, and it had basically collapsed 50%, sparking fear and bank runs. In 1 month, in 1907, it lost $160 billion, Wall Street. $160 billion in 1907. So that's got to be several hundred trillion today in today's dollars. But in 1 month, it caused a panic run. So people were running to the bank and pulling their money out, and they couldn't. The banks didn't have the money to lend to businesses, and because of that, there was a stock market plunge. Well, in comes James Pierre Morgan, who comes in, and JP Morgan, who comes in and saves the day by bringing up a bunch of his comrades, rich comrades, to bail out the major banks. But he didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. He did it because he wanted to manipulate. He was an oligarch. He wanted to be in control, just as Rockefeller, just as Vanderbilt, just as Carnegie. They all wanted to own things and make you, at the behest of him, making sure that they got the riches off of you. So this led to the creation of the Federal Reserve. And as much as I want to read from this book, I won't for the time's sakes. I will usually read this excerpt from this, about 6 pages, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bore you with it, but it's in the book of Jekyll Island. And Jekyll Island really is an interesting story because I'll just read this one quote by Eustace Mullins. He said that on the night of November 22nd, 1910, a group of newspaper reporters stood disconsolately in the railway station of Hoboken, New Jersey. They had just watched a delegation of the nation's leading financiers leave the station on a secret mission. It would be years before they discovered what the mission was. And even then, they would not understand that the history of the United States underwent a drastic change after the night in Hoboken. We find that night for a period of 9 days. The following men that you see on this slide: Nelson Aldrich, Frank Vanderflip, Henry Dawson, basically leaders, Paul Warburg, Kuhn and Love and Company. They all went to Jekyll Island, which is between Jacksonville, Florida, and in the state of Georgia. And they spent 9 days trying to map out the world that we live in today financially. Damn, I want to read that book, but I'm not going to do it because it's a lot, and I don't want to over inundate you. So I would say get the book, and you'll get all that information. But I'm gonna share something with you now about it, though. As a result from this 9-day meeting, and they were actually, I wouldn't say at gunpoint, but they were not allowed to leave until they came out with a plan. And this plan actually was commissioned by John D. Rockefeller. So he was basically like, I got the money. Y'all go and figure this thing out. Do not leave until you get it figured out. And then we're going to implement this in place, right? So what we found is when banking arbitrage was born out of Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve, first of all, isn't federal at all. It's not governmental at all. It has no reserves. There's no money that it has. But yet we are basically duped into believing that is a governmental organization when it's actually a private central bank owned by 13 families. And they have no allegiance to any country. They're not American. They're not British. They're global. And they don't care about, they'll front like, this is the country they live by or support, but they support money. They don't give two inches about any country, right? So this alliance is global. They are all around the world. And through this banking arbitrage, we found this Jekyll Island meeting that came out what's called the Aldrich Plan. The Aldrich Plan consisted of 15 regional central banks called the National Reserve. And basically they were mandated to give $5 million as a kiddie, as a initiation, or to be part of this clique. You had to give us $5 million, this group. And they would use this $5 million to then use that to create other banks. All right. And it will be ran by a national board of bankers. So what we're finding is that banking arbitrage is part of the backbone of the way America is working, right? Thank you for that. So, and you can still blow it up. I got another one here to go off in case I need to. But they make emergency loans to banks. When you understand that banks are pariah. They actually feed off each other. That's why there's so many commercials. Like banks are actually fighting to get you to give them their money. And I'll tell you why in a second. But the point is that there's no allegiance between the two. They're competition. So, and there's also tiers. There's, you know, from credit unions all the way up to the major banks and all of them in between. They all have to answer to the bank above them because most of them don't have money involved anyway. So when someone comes in to pull out a withdrawal, used to be when it was paper money, money had to be there. They had to get it from somewhere. Now everything is digital, so it doesn't matter if it's in the vault or not. They just get on the keyboard, right? But the point is, it has to come from some account. So the Aldrich plan uses what's called the fractional lending system, and this creates national debt. Okay, this is the origin of our money, and this is why things are so costly now. And they will continue to, they will not stop unless this economic system crashes, which could happen as well. So banks share out the money they hold. What do I mean by that? Fractional lending system points out that for every dollar that they give, they get to keep a penny, 10%. Now, a penny's nothing, you think, right? But when it's 100, it's $10. When it's 1,000, it's $100. When it's $1 million, it's $100,000. So every time someone makes a deposit into your account, the bank keeps 10%. I'm sorry. Yeah, the 10% is for you, but the 90% is used for them to create other opportunities. So they use the 90%. So if you put in $10,000, they take 9,000 of that dollars and create loans to other people or other businesses. It could be a loan for a car. It could be a loan for a credit card. It could be loan for a vehicle. I mean, a home. So, and it could be loaned right back to you, to be honest. You could be going there putting the money you're putting in. And if you turn around and go to the bank for a loan, you're actually asking them to loan back the money you gave them in the first place. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to give you the loan plus interest. But the deposit you made, how much interest do you get from that? Zero. You get nothing from the money you give them. But when they make a loan off the money you gave them, they keep it all in their pocket. So this is what the fractional lending system is. So what happens is the government borrows money to run things, right? So if the government needs money to run things, then through the Federal Reserve System, it borrows the money to pay for things like they say for roads and schools, but it's really used for wars. And what crab, I thought it did some lobster and crab that the Congress did over last 1 month ago or something like that. They spent so much money. It was in the news. But it promises to pay back later, and it never does. What it does do is compounds the United States national debt. So because of interest, more money is always owed. When money is borrowed, extra has to be paid back. That's called the interest, but that extra money wasn't created at the start. So more borrowing has to happen to cover it. Over time, this makes the total debt grow bigger and bigger. This is what is happening before our eyes and have been happening since 1913. As a result, America today has a $39 trillion deficit. And at the same time, those families that created this system are yielding $650 billion in interest annually. All right. So the interesting thing about the Federal Reserve, again, it's a central bank. Not even the government can have shares in it. No one can own shares in this bank, in this group, in this stock, quote unquote. So therefore, the money stays within those 13 rich families. They call them also the big rich families, which consist of 5 families. Those families are John Rockefeller, Baron Rothschild, Paul Warburg, Jacob Schiff, and J.P. Morgan, and their lineages from that. So they're extended families and branches from that. These are folks that set this up over 100 years ago. So there's many more constituents and many more mouths being fed from the work that they did over 100 years ago. Right. So this is where, again, we're seeing the making of the second America. Hoping y'all are with me, hoping you're feeling this, hoping that it's something that is enlightening you, because to me, we need to know these things to understand how we can reverse and see where we're going to be in the future. So less than 100 years from colonialist criminals leaving America, coming here, they turn around and did the same thing to us, to the very people that they said they found this country for, right? Well, we know it wasn't for us, but you know what I'm saying. So Rothschild said this. He said, look, y'all can go and do whatever y'all want to do over there. Let me control the money of a country, and we care not about who makes its laws. So this is what Amschel Rothschild is saying, is that I don't care what y'all do over there. Just give me my money and let me run it. Let me show you how to run it. Okay. You got to look up the Napoleonic Wars and how the Rothschilds became the banking dynasty in the world simply by lying and telling people that at first that Napoleon was losing the war and that Rothschilds went and started selling these stocks. And because people believed in Rothschilds, all the other financiers began selling their stocks the same. Then overnight, over a short period of time, the Rothschilds went and bought up all those stocks that the people sold and then came back and said, oh, my bad. Napoleon's not losing. He's winning. So people want to go and buy those stocks back. Well, who they got to buy them from now? They got to buy them from Rothschilds. And did you think he offered at the same price that they sold it? So that's how they became the banking dynasty of the world, through a lie. Okay. We also see the 16th Amendment that came out that basically speaks about Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on income unless you state otherwise. Tax Revenue Code 61A. That's when we start talking about irrevocable trusts. When you understand they do have loopholes, they do have things for people that doesn't have to succumb to their plan, and they intentionally meant it to just stay within the circle, but because the way wicked people are, they like to pillow talk and gloat. Information is seeped out, and we are in the information age, so we know these things now. So the making of the second America, and I put in there no Vaseline, because that's when they really started sticking it to us, is that we started seeing the income tax was created at the same time that the Federal Reserve was created. We weren't paying income taxes before then, and now they mandated it. And technically, you really is not mandated. I'm not saying they're going to do what Wesley Snipes did and just ignore it. There's ways to get around it. Again, look into trusts. But at the same time, they convinced the world, and think about it, we're coming up on tax season right now, right? So we've been hearing since January, get your taxes done. It's this mentality of propaganda. Agitation propaganda means if they agitate you by putting it out enough, you're going to react. If I tell you that you want to have a Big Mac enough, you're going to go get a Big Mac. If I tell you that you want to go have some, eat something or take a drug, like they're putting out this little drug to make you lose weight, guess what? People are going to want to take this drug to lose weight because they keep seeing the commercial. So this is what through agitation propaganda is happening. So what we saw, comparison, 1913 to 2013, we saw where 7% of the people paid income tax, 40% of the people were paying income tax in 2013. It went from basically 358,000 people filing taxes in 1913 to now over 140 million people file taxes. What does that yield these families? $2.7 trillion. And this is a 2013 number. So this family is getting $2.7 trillion to divvy between them amongst themselves because we're voluntarily, ignorantly paying for taxes. The same thing that was done to the so-called forefathers of this country who left Britain complained about, they turn around and put it on their own people, their own citizens of this country. Right? Today, the Fed earns $10 billion annually from taxes. Again, the Fed is not a federation. Legally, it's not a government entity. It's a clique of a central bank of families around the world. $10 billion free dollars every year. So what we find is that's when we started finding they were buying politicians, because how else can you convince people if you don't get the politicians to say what you want them to say, right? So we started seeing that they had people, like the very first one was President Woodrow Wilson. And Woodrow Wilson, on his deathbed, allegedly says this: I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. No longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority. I want to say that again: by conviction and the vote of the majority, meaning your vote don't count, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men. So we find that once they started purchasing politicians, and they call them lobbyists, right? So they started lobbying these folks to do their will, their bidding, And they did it through mischievous ways. They would, probably see what you were doing extramarital if you were doing some things, or if you were embezzling or whatever, or make it up. I'm not saying that they actually did it, but the point is that as you're a public figure back then, your identity had some integrity. So Woodrow Wilson, unfortunately, he does confess what happened, but he doesn't tell you anybody's name. He didn't leave you with who you can go after. This is like what the Boule does. If you know my book, Who is the Boule? They don't tell you who it is. They're going to tell you it's somebody, but they're going to tell you who it is. So what are you left doing? Chasing your tail. You don't know who to go after.
Yeah, they can't tell you who it is. You can forget.
Facts. Well, they could, but they won't, because they understand it has ramifications. I understand that part, but that's what they signed up for. So we see, jumping forward, 1933, right after the Great Depression, we're seeing now that America wants to tighten the noose on its citizens, and they actually put on an executive order 6102 where they confiscated gold and silver. Whereas folks used to have that in their homes, and this is what they were putting to build their wealth, their nest eggs, where it was a tangible asset, not some digital number on a screen. They made it basically criminal to hold silver and platinum and gold. You had to turn it in by May 1st, or you would be fined and receive prison time. They used this money to create collateral in case there was another depression, because before they didn't have anything to back it by. So they used this as leverage for other countries whenever they needed something. They had gold bullion as their point of commodity for leverage, right? Our money took it from us, right? And then we see it happens again where they changed and went away from the gold standard. In a 1971, August 15, Nixon says, I'm going to create fiat currency. This is where we see the creation of the petrodollar. The petrodollar is now where the dollar is backed by petroleum, oil, right? Now, if there's something that you want to know about oil, and again, I'm plugging my book, From Railroads to Robots. Well, Rockefeller, it's a Rockefeller created industry. Oil is actually a toxin. And runoff is one of the toxins created from oil. And because of runoff and how basically diabolic it is as a product, Rockefeller was being fined. He was being regulated because he was basically at the time just dumping it in rivers and putting it on land, and it was setting fire, poisoning the water. So they put regulation on it, and he didn't want to pay the fine. So instead of paying the fine, he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this toxic oil runoff and I'm going to create monetized products from it. So he created plastics, he created rubber, he created all these different, not rubber, he created foods, he created pesticides, all these different products today that we use, that we wear, that we breathe. Nanoplastics is a residue from it. It's a toxin that Rockefeller knew had health implications on us. And so what did he do to fight and make sure that he could sell these products and there wouldn't be any fire back from the health officials? He redefined the word quackery and made it so that anybody that talked about holistics or witch doctors or, Reiki specialists, anybody that was in the health practitioner, holistic health, he labeled them quackeries. And quackeries are supposed to be people that are selling you a box of false goods, giving you a bad narrative, meaning that you don't know what you're talking about. And he moved people away from natural herbs to using pharmaceutical, science-based, technological, quote unquote, remedies. And all these are toxins. So all you're doing is you're taking, they say that the pharmacy started from the farm. They basically did away with the farm. Everything's made in the pharmacy now. Everything is made in science. And they claim that science is better than nature. So therefore, you need to use these prescription pills that we're giving you, or these syringes that we're going to give you to put in this drug to so-called heal you, but all it's doing is masking your situation, not killing, or not coming with a solution to the remedy. Got off tangent. Let me get back here. So basically, Nixon creates the point. Well, not Nixon alone, because there's people he's being appointed to by. He's being appointed by those families, right? So they're telling him, we're going to have American dollar, the American US dollar, be the standard dollar. How so? You can't buy oil unless you pay with US dollars. This is what allowed the American dollar to be what it was and has been over the last century. But we see that it's eroding. But we're seeing that it's also in its decline is that we're seeing that inflation is eating away at it. We're seeing that other countries are saying we're done with using the dollar. We want to create our currency and use that as a way of buying oil. And some of these countries are on board. Is it ironic that President Trump has went and tried to do some ish in Iran? Because he wants to hold on to the petrodollar. This is all linked. Okay. So what we find here in 1981, October 22nd, is when the first time America's deficit toppled $1 trillion. From its inception in 1776, it took 204 years for America to get to $1 trillion in debt. And most of that came after 1913, because that's when the debt wheel started to increase and was created. All right. So what we find is now, and I looked this up today, today's debt is $39 trillion. Right? $39 trillion in debt. And I'm like, well, I don't owe that. I had nothing to do with it, right? But they said that we owe it, right? We Americans owe it, right? So in 45 years, from 1981 to now, $38 trillion has been added to the debt. That's almost $1 trillion a year. Whereas it took 204 years before to get to a 1 trillion, in 45, we're at nearly $40 trillion in debt. Right? And it's based on inflation, as I mentioned earlier, outsourcing, because America doesn't create anything anymore. And now you have these tariff wars that Trump has created. It's not all his fault, because America outsourced in the first place. When they outsourced their products and said, hey, China, why don't you make these because you're cheaper? China said, cool, just give me the blueprint. When they made the blueprint, that's what they created. I hate to call it the black market. It should be called the white market or the yellow market or whatever you want to call it, but not black, because we got nothing to do with it. We don't get the proceeds from it. But the point is that we also see that war is where they make money. You see that America has army bases on damn near every other country. Are there any foreign bases, military bases on American soil? No. So there's this whole plight of thinking that America is the dominant country. All the while, it just received a credit report a few years ago, and it went from a AAA standard, which is the excellent standard, to AA, which is considered like under 500. So America wants to come and be about my credit score. Let's look at your credit score, right? So also, let me point out too, is that we find that Trump is asking for another $200 billion for this Iran scandal, right? What he's this scheme. He's just trying to have this come up. Another $200 billion is going to be added to that. And of the 250 years, America is celebrating its 250 year this year. July 4th will be 250 years. So of its 250 years in existence, 225 of those years, America has been at war with somebody. There's only been 25 years of peace in this country. So it really makes me ashamed to be called an American, because we causing havoc everywhere. And everyone has a reason not to like Americans. And I won't say Americans per se, like me, I didn't do it, but we benefit from those things. And so that's where, we got to figure out where we draw the line, where we stand on. Shout outs to those people in the military, though, for failing their drug tests because they don't want to carry out Trump's orders. I just read about that recently. But we're also seeing, if you go to the site called usdebtclock.org, you can see for yourself the $39 trillion that are owed. And it breaks down where, like, it shows you unemployment and how much money is left there. Because here's the thing. This money is owed to somebody. And that was my next natural question is, well, $39 trillion, who do we owe that money to? Who do we owe it to, right? So the question pointed to China and Japan, which is about $2 trillion each. United Kingdom, over $1 trillion. Ireland, $1 trillion. Luxembourg, also $1 trillion. The remaining $34 trillion is owed to, guess who? Drum roll. You and me. It's owed to you and me. We pay that through our FICA, Social Security, state, federal. And because America is using this money, they say for schools and roads, it's really, again, for the wars. They're dipping in when they want to do bailouts. They bailed out, we had the housing crisis, the banking crisis. They're bailing these countries out because they're too big to fail. They're taking our futures, our nest egg money, and spending it on whatever they want to. And we don't understand it or know that because we're ignorant to the system. We don't know how money works. So because of that, because of their continually reaching into the cookie jar and pulling out from our future, it's projected that there will be no Social Security by the year 2033. And that's right when I'm supposed to retire. So we're seeing that we're lined up to actually be in a very bad situation in your golden years, unless you begin to think different. So I'm about to close out here, the last couple slides here. I want to talk about the residual effect and solutions. This is about empowering financial decision making. We can actually have a say in what happens to us if we educate ourselves and then execute with what we know. So what's the most embarrassing thing you do your best not to talk about? Obviously, the answer is there. You can put it in the chat if it's something else, but I think it's finances. I think we all do our best not to talk about money because no one wants to talk about how broke they are. No one wants to talk about how many bills they got to pay, and those that do, they do it as a badge of honor, and it shouldn't have to be. So finances has been that discussion that it'll part the Red Sea. We are going to be on the other side of the fence because we don't want nobody to know that we're suffering, that we're really just winging it, trying to figure out what to do, not sure, going by what the news is saying, and then understanding they're lying to us too. So we find that we're living in a schizophrenic type of America historically. We have two Americas, split financial personalities. Prior to 1913, we had a decentralized government and a banking system. It meant low inflation. They had low national debt, and they had a balance of supply and demand because basically shipping abroad wasn't a thing yet. So they were actually doing things within the confines of this country. It was domestic. But because things became global, corporations started to get greedy and wanted to not pay workers and pay less for their sources. So they started outsourcing. When they outsource, that means jobs are being depleted here in this country, right? So post we see 1913, we see high inflation, we see a centralized banking system, basically, again, consisting of 13 families globally, high national debt, imbalanced supply and demand. And we're seeing, again, that $37.2 trillion increase to boot over the last 45 years. And trust me, if you go to that US National Debt .org site and you just look at how fast it's jumping, in the last year, I think it was at 37 high. So it went $1.5 trillion in 1 year. So that's a lot of money that this deficit, and again, it's going up. And you will see the numbers actually are live. So the numbers are actually tallying right before you. They're running. So it's never going down. There's never a huge payment for the American government to say, oh, we're going to pay this down. And again, you want to talk about my credit score. So the point that I want to point out here is that our relationship with money is rooted in fear. And I'm a lover of acronyms. And fear to me means funds exhausted, awards, restrictions. When you don't know or when you don't have, and some of y'all remember the days of the layaway, you would window shop and you would plant your face on the mirror, on the window, looking at that thing you wanted and be breathing all on it. Like, one day I'm going to get that, right? We're always thinking about one day I'm going to take that trip. One day I'm going to buy that car. One day I'm going to save my nickels and pennies. My grandma used to always say, say your nickels and dimes, and the other thing is nickels and dimes. This thing's cost tens of thousands of dollars, right? But the point is that we never had it from the get-go. So funds exhausted, when you don't have the money, you don't get the rewards. You can't get the things you want. So there's restrictions. So you live your life really in this want stage. And then when you do get a little bit of money, what do? You blow it. You blow it because you never had it. I'm a Generation X baby. So I understand, hip hop, when we talk about what hip hop was, we were talking about things we wanted to have because we never had it. And then when we did get it, we got it. And then we lost it again because we didn't know how to manage it. We don't have a proper relationship, an introductory to how money works. So as you now learn, this is systemically designed for you not to prosper. We're not taught to use money as a tool. Most of our time is spent working for it. We're not taught it's a tool to reach our vision, and it stifles knowing your purpose. What is my real reason for being born here as M'Bwebe Ishangi? Not to work for this corporation, it's the slave plantation that's going to pay me less than what I'm worth and use the most energetic hours of my day for decades. Some people will work 40, 50 years only to have 10 years of freedom when they retire. And then by then you're too old to even move around because you didn't take care of yourself. This is the life that has been designed by Rockefeller, to be that worker, not thinker. So this isn't the life it's supposed to be like. This isn't what life is supposed to be like. We're the only species on the planet that pays to live here. Think about that. Humans are the only people that have to pay to be on this planet. Do you see birds talking to a real estate broker about a tree they want to put up for the summer? No, they live off the land. Do they go to Whole Foods to go get their berries and juices? I mean, I'm bugging, but their berries and worms and stuff? No, nature, right? But we, the human species, the so-called most elevated and intelligent beings on the planet or things on the planet, decided to monetize living. And for those that don't have it, you are ass out. So therefore, money is in the way of what our living experience is supposed to be like. If you're too busy worried about how to pay the bills, you're not going out and looking at the sun. You're not going out and hugging a tree. You're not going out and gardening and growing your own food. This is the mentality, the sheeple mentality that's been indoctrinated in us from the educational, monetary, and even religious sect to be workers and not thinkers. So it makes common sense to master money so you can own your time and live your life purposely. But unfortunately, common has been removed and sense has been replaced with cents as in dollars. So why do I feel the need for us to be financial therapists, or actually to receive financial therapy? Sorry. I consider myself a financial therapist because these are the type of things that I ponder, and I don't feel like I'm the only one. And beyond the pondering is the resolution. So a financial planner, people think I need a financial planner, somebody to, help me do stuff. Well, they're going to manage your finances. They're going to plan you, invest your finances. They're going to do your retirement and estate planning. But understand you are a number to them. They're a salesman. They're not vested in your well-being. They're trying to sell you the highest package they can. That's why you find most people that sell life insurance will never sell your whole life insurance policy. They want you to get a term life because they get paid higher commission. So it's all about dividends that they get. But as a financial therapist, my obligation is to help you face your origin of the relationship with money. Yes, we're going to sit on a virtual couch and talk about your habits with money, how you've been introduced to it. I'll talk about it from an individual and a collective because, again, it's systemic. And then I'll show you how to expose you to the systemic connections. It's not your fault you don't know about your situation. It's not your fault that you don't have a high credit score or that you have low amounts in your savings. It's not your fault you're putting your savings in a bank account, because that's where it shouldn't be. And then I will prepare you to become your own planner from that point. So with this, because this happens, and even the Department of Justice says that the number one killer in life is stress. And again, me being a lover of acronyms, stress means someone trying to repair every situation solo. We don't want to tell nobody we got problems. We too proud. We'd rather be broke and, oh, how come you'll never come out? Oh, I'm busy. No, you broke. And you don't want nobody to know that. And that's okay. I understand it's pride, but you can ask for help. And if you can't get the help you're looking for, this is why I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to show you how you can walk out of the situation with a job or not. This is something that we have not been invited to talk about. And this is, again, why I fashioned this talk exclusively to our people, because no one else here is talking to us about this. Not on this level, I would say. And I don't want to be like I'm the only one, I'm the savior. No, but I feel there's a dire need to get even deeper. A couple more slides and then we're done. So it's time that we check our mental engine. In doing so, we all, as I mentioned, have some sheep in us. People today have bought into the concept of becoming sheeple without even knowing. That's a sheep person in the people. So if you think about a sheep, a herd basically follows the sheep in front of it. It never looks up to see where we're walking, never looks left or right. It follows the ass in front of it. So if the sheep in front of it is going to fall off a cliff, guess what? You'll be falling off right with it because you don't look anywhere else. You don't make your own decision. You go with the majority. You're afraid to stand out on your own. You're conditioned, not afraid. You're conditioned to go with where everyone else goes. So we've been initiated and have accepted this mentality from birth. Okay. And this is all propagated based upon FOMO, or fear of missing out. Because everybody else is doing it. You don't want to miss out, because if they get something and you wasn't there, you missed out. Or you want to be by yourself because, it ain't going to happen, because we don't have faith in doing things on our own. It must be a collective in order for it to be true. This creates stress that's handed down. And as a result, our lives are dictated by that 1% I've been talking about all night. This is their plan. This is their systemic plan to make you believe that you have to follow their plan. And you think your plan is your plan. Your plan is their plan. So like cars, I think we could use a checkup of financial diagnosis, because that check engine light has been in our spirit going off for eons. We just ignore it. We know something ain't right. We talk about it. We talk about the politics. We talk about the finance. We talk about how much things cost and how I'm tired of paying for this and I'm tired of paying for that. But guess what? We still go and pay for it. So that check engine light is still there, and we need to address that check engine light before we burn out and that engine completely goes kaput. So with that, with the type of proper therapy that I feel I can offer you, that fear will turn into finances explain AIDS resilience. When you know about finances, you understand how it works, you will be able to break out of this psychosis, this rat race psychosis, of feeling like you have to work for a living, that you have to work for money and know how to make money work for you. And that will not only change your life, but it'll change the trajectory of your entire bloodline, because all you got to do is copy and paste. Okay. So here's a couple things I offer to get financially fit by investing in yourself, change not only your future, but your bloodlines. I have financial therapy sessions. And I have a $99 there, but I actually have lessened it to $50 for the first time. And then after that, we figure out how many sessions you want to have. And the sessions isn't just to hear you talk about stuff. I'm actually giving you results. I'm giving you tasks, and I'm gonna be making sure you do what you're supposed to be doing. But the financial therapy is one thing where we actually talk about it, your situation specifically. I also have courses at my website, cryptowokemovement.com, where I actually have both in-person, online, and self-paced courses where you will take financial education, financial mastery, where you will learn about financial education and literacy. You'll learn everything that I know, and it's updated all the time. So you'll actually know how to basically change the way you approach and deal with money. And then there's also my book, Apocalypse and Intergenerational Wealth Planning, that breaks down a lot of the history and also gives you resolutions and solutions inside the book to actually implement into your daily life right now. So if you don't want to do the course, you're not ready for the course, read the book. And then also have a series of hack manuals. These hack manuals are ebooks and PDFs versions, so that basically you can learn how to do specific things. Like if you want to raise your credit score using credit, if you want to learn how to, it's basically an array of short hacks that you can use to implement in building your financial status. Additional works I have, again, I subscribe many frequencies. So I've been writing 30 years plus about as a cultural journalist. I've written over 750 articles, 8 books and counting. There's a QR code to see some of my books. My first one there is Analytical Cogitations, Who's the Boule. My latest is a novel called 2048. I'll speak about that in 1 second in my closing. And then I also have From Rebels to Robots, and also Apatapissin. And I also have a sequel to Apatapissin coming out this year, Apatapissin version 2, The Systemic Origin of the Wealth Game and Why It Doesn't Include You until now. that's coming next. And I also offer, because I do talk about a lot about AI and technology and how this also plays a part in our future, immediate future, and where do we see ourselves. This book is called 2048. And this book actually is my first crack at doing a novel and allows me to actually bring in some truth with creation. It's called 2048, Sovereignty in the Age of Control, when Big Brother merges with AI. And here's the book cover. You can see it there as well. It is a page turner, a quick read, but it is in depth with ancestral knowledge about how we can fight against AI, because AI, the original AI, as you probably heard, is ancestral intelligence. And we're in the information age. So it's ironic that IA needs AI and AI needs AI. Information age needs artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence needs African intelligence or ancestral intelligence, because AI is just information conjured up from people that have written about our story. So as we tell our story, we are actually educating ourselves and AI. So you can join this book club. Starts actually April 9th, in a couple weeks. You can actually register at that QR code there. I would love to have you be part of this, because this is actually a place where I'm going to call, it's called a gatla. A gatla is basically an African term for the word conclave, where we're going to get with people of mastery in their fields. If you are a Reiki specialist, if you are a shaman, a tech head, a hacker, a graphic artist, a poet, any type of artist and activist, we want to create a group of folks so that we can create a pool of people to have a say as resources and activists in the very near future. So we don't have to outsource and look for someone else to create our future ourselves. Okay. So with that, I yield my time. Give thanks for listening. I'm open for Q&As. Again, if you found what I shared this evening remotely adequate, there's my cash app. I would appreciate any type of donations, or buy a book and support the work. Madasipa. Bless.
Yes, indeed, brother. Deep, detailed information. Appreciate that. That's right.
Y'all say.
All right, so family, we're going to take a little break, 10-second break, so you guys can like, share, subscribe. Y'all been commenting crazy, so I appreciate that. A lot of comments. I appreciate that. That means y'all are focused, y'all are in tune, and y'all being a part of the show. So first thing I want to say, brother, thank you for the presentation. I see you put a lot of time and energy, hard work into that. Appreciate that. First thing I want to start off with is why, okay, so if someone says, well, why do I need to know historically about finances and economics, worldwide? Like, why do I need to know what Britain did? Like I need money now. Like, how's that going to help me? What would you say to that?
Well, here's the thing. When you don't have, and then you get, if you don't appreciate how you got it, you're going to blow it again. So the thing for me is, when you learn about finances and how it was designed for you to lose it, then when you do get it, when you gain access to it and you're building it and growing it, you keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, they want me to buy this material thing. They want me to invest in this cryptocurrency that is improving. They want me to splurge and go to Dubai and just do the tours and not instead buy land. They want me to do these things so that whenever you get money, trust, they want to get that money you got. They don't want you to hold on to it. And they'll even tell you, hey, well, why don't you invest it in this portfolio? Or why don't you put it in this a savings account? Put it away. Let me actually be your financial planner, and I'll govern it for you. They'll come with all these type of things because they don't want you to make your own decision. So knowing the history of it, and when you approach it, knowing, okay, 9 times out of 10, you're trying to manipulate me, because it's not personal, it's business, it's their mindset. Their mindset is to get you to pay them. Why do we pay service fees for investors, for our portfolios? And most of their money is getting paid from a monthly service fee. So why? I can do that myself. All I got to do is get online and look at my account, look at the market, and see if it's something worth staying in or not. Why am I paying somebody for that? Because we're lazy. We're not equipped. We're thinking they know more than us. So when we know the information, you know the history of it, then you realize I can govern this myself. And instead of working for someone, part of my day is working for myself, managing my money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's as simple as that to me.
Got it. So in your journey, just unlearning and finding resolutions for your financial journey, did a lot of it have to do with spirituality? Like what was it rooted in your spirituality?
Man, listen. So yes, 1000%, because if it's one thing that I learned long ago when I started my magazine again in 1993, and one thing I saw Dr. Clark in his last days. I saw Dr. Ben in his last days.
Yeah.
I saw this lock just wanted to come out. This antenna trying to connect to the ancestors.
Right. Sure.
So, but I saw how the work they put in for our story, and how most of them didn't have a financial leg to stand on and take donations. And so I said to myself way back then, economics. So let's talk about Francis Cress Welsing and Neely Fuller, who has the 9 areas of people activity. Kitty Abu, who came up with the 10th. We have 9 areas of people activity, what global white supremacy runs. This is their blueprint. This is how they run the world. It's these 10 areas they govern. It's education, economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, sex, religion, and war. And the 10th one put by Brother Kitty is health. So they govern all those 10 areas. We get our food from them. We get our education from them. We get our labor from them. Everything they control. So if we start to understand that, then it's no wonder we don't have the things we have. It's no wonder we don't have a savings that is well beyond our means and that we could retire in our 30s or 40s opposed to 65. And that's because we're forced. We have not been taught about those things. So for me, understanding that the ancestors, I feel, have been speaking to me to not repeat the cycle.
Yes, sir.
How you learn history is when you don't repeat it.
Yes, sir.
So for me, it was like, how can I make sure that I don't do what they unknowingly did? Dr. Clark didn't knowingly say I wanted to be, and I'm not saying he was broke, but I'm just saying he wasn't rich. He wasn't. Steve Coakley said, this is a payless job. Being an activist is a payless job. There's no pension. There's no weekly salary. There's no vacation. So when you dedicate doing work for your people, you are signing up to be economically and financially destitute unless you come up with something else.
Yeah.
So for me, ancestors have always been echoing to say, hey, and it wasn't until I guess finally listened in 2017 when I lost my job, I need to finally understand what money is. And that's what's put me on this journey. Yeah.
Got you. So we spoke a lot about the banking system, right? And you spoke about them taking 90%, leaving us the 10%. Am I correct? I don't want to misquote you.
Yes.
All right. So now how do we combat something like that where, it eventually drowns us? Like, how do we combat, like, even in the smallest ways, because we're the micro compared to them, the macro. How do we do that on a micro level?
So the micro level is you stop depositing your money. If you do deposit in the banks, then you pull it right out and put it somewhere else. Now, one that I would give you a nugget right now that you would put your money in is if you can create a whole life insurance policy. It's called why is it escaping my mind here? When you put it into a whole life insurance policy, you are based infinite banking systems is what it's called. Infinite banking is where you become your own bank. So through a whole life insurance policy with a company that sees you as a policy holder, not a shareholder, because a shareholder is something that is paid dividends to other people that may not be part of the organization.
You said as a what?
Shareholder, not as a shareholder, policy holder.
Okay, policy holder.
Policy holder. So when you have a policy with a company that pays dividends to the policy holders on an annual basis, they also have what's called a cash asset vault. So when you make a premium payment on your insurance, part of that goes to this vault. that grows anywhere between 4.25% to 7.5%.
Is that the net cash value?
Yes.
Okay.
Of that amount that you put in on an annual basis.
Yeah.
It can go up to 11% if you put more money into it. You can put more money into it, but banks are going to offer you less than 1%.
Yes.
So you're getting at minimum state by state 4%, and then you also add on that 4.25% to 7 and 7.5%, whatever that company offers. So you're getting up to 10 to 11% off of what you're putting in.
Gotcha.
And so when you get paid, because it has to be through a banking system, just withdraw it. Keep a couple dollars in there to keep the account open. Then put the money into your whole life insurance policy and let that grow at 4.25% to 11%.
Yeah.
And then when you want to pull money out, be it to pay bills or to go on a trip, you don't deposit or you don't withdraw, you loan it to yourself. As a loan, there is no taxes and it does not have to be reported to the IRS.
So you're taking the loan from
Your
the cash,
account.
from the cash value that built up from the policy.
Yes.
Got it. And then you're paying, you said you're paying the loan back, but is there interest on the loan?
So yes, so here's the thing. You can pay the loan back. If you don't pay the loan back, it gets taken out of the balance of your whole life insurance policy. Now, that's not to say you get a $200,000 policy, you loan out $200,000 and never pay it back. No, there's a cutoff.
Yeah.
But if you're putting in, for instance, if you get paid $3,000, $5,000 a month from your job, and you put in $4,900, $4,950 into your policy, and then you pay your bills from your policy, or you can pay your bills from, I can show you another way through credit. But if you put it all into your policy, that money there, and then you pull out money to pay your monthly bills as a investment or as a loan to yourself, rather, then that money is no taxes on it. But once you do pay the money back, there is taxes affixed to the balance, but that tax is being paid back to yourself. It's going to your account. So you're basically saving, you're cutting out a middleman. You're growing this account to become now an infinite banking system where, and here's the thing, you can have more than one policy.
Yeah.
You have the Rockefellers have, for every child that's born, they open up a policy, and they have several policies, anywhere from 10 to 100 whole life insurance policies per member. So now you're thinking about the value of that family.
Wow.
And the amount of money that they have. And if they're pulling out a loan to themselves to, purchase something, if you let it grow, and if you know about the what's the word? When you're talking about when money grows, why is the word skipping me right now? Oh shucks.
Not compound, right?
Compound interest, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
When you factor in, when you get into the compound interest calculator, and you put in that number and see what you're putting in and see what it looks like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Or if you have a child and they just got born, or they're 5 or 6 years old, and you put money in there for 10 years and you see what it's going to look like in 10 years, you wonder why Jewish folks have these bar mitzvahs and how much money they have, because they started investing when they were born.
It's a lower rate at that point, right?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I would say you have to get, so with a whole life insurance policy, the first policy will have to be in your name. So if you are over 30, 40, 50 years old, you're going to be paying a high premium. But again, you can open up many more policies after that. So what you do is open up every other policy in your children's names.
Yeah.
And you're paying a lower premium. You're paying $20 a month opposed to $300, $400, $500. But it's worth it, because that $400 or $500 that you're paying, not only do you have a higher insurance rate, it is not termed, meaning that if you have a term life policy, it's 10 years, 15, 25 years. If you pay for a policy, term life policy, you are basically giving away money, because in most cases, you have to be healthy to get one in the first place. If you get a 10-year policy, they're banking on the fact that you're going to be alive in 10 years.
Of course.
So if you're here on 10th year, day one, all that money you gave them, they keep.
That's it.
You have to die to get that money.
Yeah.
You can't touch it while you're alive. Your family gets nothing.
It just goes.
It's like car insurance. I can never get in an accident.
Yep.
But with whole life insurance policies, you can touch the money yourself while you're alive.
Got
month
it.
one that you open up the policy. So it doesn't, it behooves you not to let it grow.
Yeah,
But if you need it, it's there for you.
it's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so now in your book you talk about retire. You talk about pension 401k and what's like the scam with that. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, we don't read fine print. I still don't read all fine print.
Yep.
But when you look at the housing crisis, which really affected me and woke me up, 2010, I lost $250,000 in my 401k. And I figured, I was first obviously pissed, but then I heard that everybody else did too. So I said, oh, okay, it's a sheeple thing. I didn't think of the term sheeple, but I thought everybody got hit. So when's the payback? I figured they're going to recoup us. Then I had to go back and look at the fine print. It's a gamble.
That's it.
They are not obligated to pay you whatever you lose.
Yeah.
So I learned then that recessions, and we thought the 2010 recession, housing recession, was an anomaly. Come to find out, recessions happen all the time.
Yeah.
Every 4 to 10 years, there's a new recession. And therefore, the market is not safe. And if you think about it, every 4 to 10 years, especially every 10 years, there's another generation preparing to retire that are losing their retirement. It's systemically designed. And we don't know until it happens that I lost all my money, because most of us will go as far as saying, I got a digital portfolio, but do you know how the stocks are prepared today?
Yeah.
How they perform? We don't watch it. We trust the system. We trust our financial broker or planner, and we think it's okay until shit hits the fan. Excuse my language. But once it does, then we're like, oh, it's already done. Nothing you can do now. It's gone. So same thing with pensions. Well, pensions are a little bit more solidified, but pensions aren't offered anymore. Pensions were started out as a way to basically companies couldn't continue to do it because governmental jobs still have them because they're using the money off of citizens. But companies that had pensions used to have pensions. They basically were promising people to pay them until they died. So if you retired at 65 and you died at 90, that's 25 years they got to pay you money.
Yeah.
We're going to help them in their gain and profit.
Yeah.
Because they're paying out money. So they cut the pension out. Then they created the 401k as the resolution where they put the onus on us to put our money away for retirement. So therefore, you're telling us, you're pushing us out there into Wall Street and saying, okay, now figure it out. And nobody will talk to you.
Yeah.
And if they do talk to you, they're going to tell you something that you want to hear, but they're the ones that's running it to benefit themselves. So you're thinking I'm covered. Yeah, you're covered, but you're getting screwed at the same time because you're getting very little opposed to what the person that's doing it for you is getting.
Got you.
So that's the game.
Yeah. And you're looking forward to that for 30, 40 years sometimes, like myself, looking forward to it. So what would you say, what would be like a small suggestion to for instead of some people can't get out of a pension, but like something else, like another pot that, somebody can just add a small couple of dollars that they'll see the growth, in 30 years.
So if you can, I know with pensions are kind of hard to do, but if you can in your 401k, I will close the account. If you don't want to close it, then do an experiment and do maybe 10% or leave half. Take out half. Now you're going to get taxed if you're under 59 and a half. You're going to get taxed. Take the hit. Yeah. Open up your whole life insurance company, a policy, and put it there. It will grow much faster, and it's safe. And then looking to getting a trust so that's behind the trust, so that when it comes time for the government want to be in your backyard, it's a private matter. They can't get access. Now, outside of that, I would say when you're getting paid now, if you don't want to, if you can't touch your pension or et cetera, any extra funds you have, it still behooves you to get a whole life insurance policy. Why? Because we're all going to transition. But it's not about the transition. It's about money you can use now. Life insurance policy you can use now. You might need it that percentage to put out on a house that you think you're going to own, but it's going to take you 30 years to pay it off. But you can put this money there and have it grow expeditiously, opposed to keeping it in a bank account where they took 90% of it and gave it to somebody else, probably back to you because you want that loan. If you put it in your own account, you're your own bank. it's growing much faster with compound interest, and you can use it to cover your life. If you get it to high enough, this is something I teach in my course, is that you have a financial endurance number where for a year you have certain expenses that you have to pay for the year. If you take your monthly expenses, multiply it by 12, that's what you're going to spend for the year. If you have enough money in your whole life insurance policy, pull that money out for the year as a loan to yourself. Your bills are covered for the year. You don't have to pay another dime because you pulled it out of your own policy.
Yeah.
Right. In addition to that, you're still getting paid and putting money back into your policy, so it's growing. So say, for instance, next year, you might be able to pull out 2 years worth.
Yep.
And then as down the line, you can pull out 5 years worth if you wanted to. Now, not necessarily do that, but the point is that it starts to grow to a point where you could cover your expenses without having to have a job. Now you can quit your job.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said about your own bank earlier when you were showing the visuals. There was a term that you used about being your own bank. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Being your own bank is exactly what I'm talking about. That is what I'm just speaking about as far as
what you're talking about with the whole life insurance is being your own bank.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Intimate banking basically allows you to become, because again, this policy that you have that has these amounts of monies in there, you're going to pull from it at will. So now you're not going to the bank for a loan. You're going to yourself for a loan.
Yeah.
And that loan is, less than what you're paying in percentage in interest. And again, most importantly, you don't have to report it to the IRS.
Got it. Okay. I had there was a question here that I thought was kind of interesting when you was talking about taxes. I wanted to put it up here. Yeah, I'll find it in a little bit. So the other thing that I had was can everyone be an entrepreneur?
You can be whatever you want to be, but you could be, I'll say the greatest entrepreneur is someone who lives off their savings and investments.
Someone that lives off their savings
and investments.
Yes.
You manage money. What I mean by that is you manage your own money. Like, think about it. Like, entrepreneur, we think we have to sell a good.
Yes.
You have to have a product.
Yeah.
Right? I need to get someone to invest in me. I need someone to buy into me. That's how I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. Meaning my profit is based upon someone else. Right?
Gotcha.
The greatest entrepreneur is someone that eats off their own selves. When you actually are investing in your own self and you have something, I use the analogy of a chef that has on our stoves, we have 4 eyes, right? So you can cook up 4 things at once. Imagine having a huge restaurant type of kitchen where you got 16 eyes and 16 things are brewing. These are 16 different types of investments. Some are whole life insurance policies. Some may be crypto. Some may be this or that. Some may be land. Some may be, different things. And something is cooking and stirring in each of those.
Yeah.
You're eating for generations.
Absolutely.
So the thing about having an entrepreneur mindset is cool because that means you're breaking the mold of being a sheep and you're out to go and get and do. Yeah. But the best one is one that understands money and manages their own. You'll be employed for life.
True indeed. And those 16 pots, it doesn't have to be anything crazy to start with.
Be simple, bro. Like
super simple.
Grow some sweet potato.
Yeah.
Grow some herbs, grow something very simple. It ain't gotta be all deluxe. But and that's the thing, is that we need to get out of that whole point of we need to get back to basics. The basics of sustainability. That's why I teach in my STEAM classes. That's part of STEAM's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But there's so many other things in those letters. I mean, you got astronomy, astrology, you got metaphysics, you got tech, you got all these different things that we once lived by.
Yes. Absolutely.
This society now, they dissected it. We go to college to get 1 degree.
Yeah.
We learned in ancient Kemet and Kush, we had 360 degrees.
Yep.
We knew how to do agriculture. We knew how to read the stars. We knew how to capture water. We knew how to build homes. We knew several things. And so that's the whole thing about us feel like we can only be a one-trick pony. That's why I call myself the scribe of many frequencies. I can do a little bit of everything because that makes me more applicable to have the type of life that I'm wishing to attain.
Yeah.
But if you only got one thing that you're good at and there's no need for it, how are you going to survive?
Can't. But I like what you said about grow something, because when we think about investment, we're thinking about money, for the most part. But there's other investments that will offset the money or offset that bill. Like if you're growing something, all right, you grow tomatoes. Now you ain't got to buy tomatoes. It's something simple as that. We may feel like, all right, what's some tomatoes going to do for me for the summer? But it's a start, because what you was paying for tomatoes for, 5-6 months, now you could put that towards one of those 16 pots and let that cook.
Copy. And then when you connect with a network of folks that okay, you got tomatoes, I got scallions.
Yes.
Let's get back to bartering. Let's figure I don't have to have everything.
Yeah.
Having that gotla I talked about is something, and the correct spelling is Kgotla. It's a Tanzanian word, but we need to create our own gotlas. If you saw the movie Sankofa, they had the red handbands.
Yep.
And they met in the woods.
Yep.
That's a gotla.
Gotcha.
They came together and talked about it. I went to Costa Rica and I went to a seed festival.
Yeah.
People were exchanging seeds from different regions in that area, somewhere hours away, came to exchange their seeds with other people so that they could grow their own food. These are the mindsets, and we think it's primitive.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you know anything about seeds, they have these families have large spaces in, I think, I want to say it was in New Zealand, somewhere really cold, where they have these banks where they have all these seeds in case there's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
We're not prepared. Our grandparents were. Our grandparents canned. Our grandparents grew food. They had gardens. What happened when we went to school in the 70s? They took out slowly home ec.
Absolutely.
We stopped learning how to grow food.
Exactly. Yep.
Took out gardening. Took out workshop, working with tools, wood. They took all those things out because they wanted us to become workers for the type of work they want us to do.
Yeah.
Not go and make for yourself, make for someone else.
Yeah.
So this is that systemic plan that we all are affected by, but some of us still remember what it used to be like.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to get back to. That's what 2048 is about too. That's what 2048 is about.
Sounds to me like you're saying to basically Africanize it. That's what Brother Kaba Kamene always says.
Yes.
Africanize it. He's like, if you read the Bible, Africanize it. If you read the Quran, Africanize it. So we need to get back to Africanizing it, which is the basics, which is the foundation. These things are just so simple. But look, brother, we winding down. I want to thank you. I want to thank you much for putting that together. We definitely need you to come back and talk about the trust. There's a few other things. I got mad questions here I wanted to answer, but we're gonna have to pack it up, and we're gonna have to bring you back and have you back as a regular. But what I want the people to know is, please look into M'Bwebe's resources. All right, please, it'll help you out. Like I always say, keep it simple. He's willing to chop it up with you. He's a great guy. He's going to talk to you. He's going to talk to you from the heart. He's going to talk to you from the spirit. So he's not just out to get you like some of these sharks out here. Because he went through it. He went through it, and like he said, the ancestors is speaking to him, and I'm sure the ancestors is telling him, to do y'all right and exact. All right. So, my brother, any parting words you want to say? Also, hit his Cash App up. Hit his website up. Hit all his social medias up. Follow him, and you'll get even more information, right? And he'll speak to you direct. What I'm saying? He's a cool, very cool dude. You got any parting words you want to say?
Yeah, I want to give thanks to each and every one of you who've taken time to listen, whether you listen to the entire thing or you had the jet and whatever, but you come back to it. Those that are watching the replay, those in the future. I want to give thanks to our ancestors, but most importantly, I want to thank you for being here. The opportunity to speak is always a pleasure. That's why I give as much as I can, because I don't want to take time for granted. You may not ever see me again, although I hope I will. But I give thanks for that time, and any bit of support helps. In the least, the free 99s are the followings on the social media. But if you do want to purchase a book, purchase a course, that would also help you as well. I'm here for the work for our people, and any way that I can do that, I'm always going to be here for that. So I give thanks for your time, and let's move forward. Let's start actually executing what we learn. Let's manifest the future that we deserve. It's not going to be given, but let's manifest it. Bless up.
Appreciate you, brother. Can you just wait backstage? You just want to close out, and then I'll get with you. All right.
All right. Bless up.
Yes, sir. What up, Fee?
Yo, that was good. Oh my God.
Sure.
Yeah, and he's like a little comedian too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, he got jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, yo, I was sitting here thinking how many ways and the things I want to do to work with him. So this is good. Good choice. Good
Yeah,
choice.
I wanted to get to some common things that people based on their lifestyles. We've been told for generations to get a job, to go to high school, go to college, get a job, get a pension, and retire, right? And you could retire. So most of us is retiring in our 60s because we waiting for the pension to hit, and we waiting for the Social Security to hit. So by the time we 68, we're retiring and we're talking about, all right, now I'm gonna go travel. Like, you should have been traveling. You should have been traveling in your 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever you can afford. But yeah, so I just wanted him to talk about some common things, as we closed out, and then we'll have him back on, for people to, ask him some questions. Or actually, I found the question that Homegirl was talking about, but I'm gonna ask him, and then maybe I'll say it next time on the show. But yeah, so that's that.
Yeah. So, listen, I think that you bring up a good point about this retiring and then, beginning to like live your life essentially, right? Yeah. And how, you want to start living your life as you're in it, day one. Because I think about everyone who like comes on our trips. Like we get a lot of people who are retired, who have the time, have the money, to come do it. But it is something that, it's a different. I remember talking to this older woman who had traveled with us. I think she's like 74, and she said, I wish I just would have known what I knew now. I would have 100%. I would have traveled earlier when my body could move differently, and so yeah. So family, we just want to just talk briefly about this, and also family, next Sunday, Sunday coming up, we're gonna have Professor James Small back on. We haven't had Professor Small in a minute. Yeah. So it's going to be cool to have him back on the show on Sunday at 7 p.m. Okay. And that's Professor Small. You can come talk to us about some stuff. He's always a delight to have him, come on. But again, family, listen, you can go to ICAT Tours and find out. And see, this is the thing, I have another friend who started to get his money, he got his money right. And so he's retired. And what he does is he does exactly what M'Bwebe. Yeah, there we go. Exactly what he does. And so he just pulls out money and he goes on a trip like all the time with us. And I was like, man, like, whereas me and, other people, if you're, let me, hustle, let me get this little money together, let me do this, let me, so listen, there's a way. I can't wait to sit down and talk to this cat. Yeah, and it's good. He has all types of programs to help everybody, so there's really no excuse. Yeah. And he's gonna start writing for the Hoppy newsletter. So that's what's up. Yeah. But family, these are our offerings that we have. 3 signature experiences, 1 sacred journey. You can roll with us from Senegal, Ghana, and Togo, add on Morocco, or you can just do Senegal and Morocco. And the beautiful thing about this is that we have the esteemed Robin Walker that's coming with us to give us a tour, the Moors tour. We got to think of a name for that. But
we'll have next week.
Yes, we will. From Senegal to Morocco. So family, this is a good time. And anybody that's traveled with us, you already know how, you know what it is. Tell a friend, and you're going to have a good time. And the price that you see, like when you go and you look at all the different prices on our website, it's all inclusive of everything. So all you have to do is, just get to Newark. We leave out of Newark, New Jersey, and we come back through JFK. So family, I'm telling you, this is going to be a really good trip. It's going to be nice. And remember, Robin Walker.
Oh, let me say this real quick. For the people that are skeptical to room with someone on a trip, I'm a living testament to tell you that they, like, before I got with Hoppy, I was going on their trips to Kemet and stuff, right? And they paired me up with someone that I didn't know, but we had family ties. Both of our families grew up in the same neighborhoods back in the 50s, actually the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Like, our families knew each other. And, I don't know if y'all realize this because y'all are at the heads, and, but when you're speaking with the people that are on the trip, no one's having any complaints about who they're rooming with.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Most of the people are rooming. They're not, getting their own rooms. And I think that's dynamic, that y'all can pick who should be with who, and it works out seamlessly.
Yeah, you know what? It's always like, it's divine intervention. So, and the other Chiefs family, we do have single rooms. Like if you want to, like every time I go, I always just get a single room because that's just what I like to do, but people like different things. But it always ends up working out, which is beautiful. Yep. Yes. And with the actual tour, we do have a name for the tour. It's like I'm thinking about all these different things going on in my mind, but it's the history of the Moors through Senegal and Morocco with Robin Walker. Yeah. And that's going to be, family, just go, you can go to our YouTube page, Happy Film on YouTube, and you can check out the show that we just did with Robin Walker. It was really good. Okay. I mean, he is dope. Like, he is so full of so much information, the Black History Man. So yeah, and this is what it's about. It's really good when we have people on that know that are just in one lane and they know it very well. Just like M'Bwebe. Am I saying M'Bwebe? Yeah, baby. M'Bwebe. Like he's clear. Like the way he was just flowing through that PowerPoint, and like some of the things, like I've heard a lot of these things. Like if you've seen Hoppy, a lot of what he talked about is actually in our Hoppy documentary. And then he went a little step further. He naming some names. Like that was it was very well thought out. And it also gave you clarity. It gave you like some like information, but also it did inspire me, because I was like, yeah, I'm about to work with this brother. We about to figure this out, because, I'm not trying to be, hustling the rest of my life for money. So, yeah. So family, listen, this is another way, like our trips are it's about the value of learning about ourselves, our culture, our history. And, we travel to do that. I travel to do that. And I'm pretty sure everybody, a lot of us travel, to do that. And ICAT Tours is built upon that. That's the mission over here at ICAT Tours. So family, just head over to icattours.com. Check out our offerings. It's 3 signature experiences, 1 sacred journey. It's dope.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, family. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing your time with us. We don't take it for granted. We want to give you the resources. We want to give you the history. We want to share the spirituality aspect of it. And, we want you to then apply it to your life. Piece by piece. All right.
Building community.
Building community.
Building community.
So we'll check y'all on the next show on Sunday. We got Professor Small. All right.
Yes, it's gonna be great.
Peace. Stay happy.
Peace.
Economics and politics are the foundation of human development.
While forming the world's earliest civilizations, Africans also laid the groundwork for the creation of economic systems.
By learning from our history, we gain the strength to empower the present and design the future. Presenting the premier forum for truth, culture, and change. HAPI Talks. Join us as we unlock the secrets to our success.